Tonight we commence with the 20th juz of the Quran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at the beginning of this part of chapter, this section of his book, he tells us again the signs of his power and majesty in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and who grows beautiful gardens by sending down rain, and who made the earth a place of residence and ran rivers between it, and planted strong mountains like pegs, who listens to the pleas in times of distress, who consoles sorrows, who guides through the darkness of land and sea, who sends cold breezes as forebearers of rain, who initiated the creation the first time, and who will bring to life again, and who sustains the creations of the earth and the heavens, none other than Allah. After posing all questions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks the human being that if you have a sound mind and you understand these arguments, then is there anyone who can be a true deity other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Then Allah tells us to travel and see for ourselves on the earth what happened to the nations that were rebellious and how Allah destroyed them. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the hearing of the dead and the deaf. He tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, verily you do not make the dead hear, nor do you make the deaf hear your call when they are walking away with their backs turned. Now, this doesn't mean that the dead can't hear. The dead here in the Quran are not as in dead people who have been, the soul being taken out of them. They are those who are dead in terms of their hearts, that they don't act to the guidance that's given to them and the signs that's given to them. When the Quran is recited, it's like, you're talking to a brick wall. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet that you can't make these people hear, because certain people, the verdict has already been given against them. The verdict has been already given against them. And we know that the dead hear from many hadith, that this is the actual dead, right? When you bury them, we know that they hear the footsteps of their loved ones leaving. And when their loved ones visit them, they recognize the footsteps and they recognize so-and-so is coming to visit me. So we know that the dead can hear, but these are the dead of faith. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in verse 82 that the disbelievers and the wrongdoers on the day of judgment, they will be silent. They will stand still in the spot that they're standing out of the fear and terror of the things that they have done. Then Surah Al-Qasas begins. Now this is a Meccan surah and it's the 49th to be revealed. And it's called Qasas because this word is mentioned in one of its verses. Sallu ala al-Habib.
Assalamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Rasulullah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Sayyidi ya Habib Allah.
Then there is dhikr, mention of Sayyidah Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun, who, as we mentioned a few nights ago, she discovered a baby in a basket. So she took the baby, and the baby was Musa alayhi salam. Now, she couldn't bear children. So she said to Musa alayhi salam, look, she said to Fir'aun that, remember at that time he was killing all the children, because he was told by fortune tellers that your kingdom is going to come to an end by a boy who's going to be born to the Bani Israel. So when he heard this, he became paranoid and started killing every child. Every boy that was born in Bani Israel, he would kill them. So she said to him, look, I found this boy abandoned in a basket, going through the river. So do not kill him. We should raise him, because we don't have children, and he will be a good omen for us. But little did Fir'aun know that this was the very same child that would be the end of his dynasty. So the Quran tells us that later on Musa alayhi salam was united with his mother. Now the Mufassirin have said that her name was Yohannes. Yohannes was the name of the mother of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. And we said in the hadith that there are four great women: Sayyidina Khadija al-Kubra radiyallahu anha, Sayyidina Fatima salamullahi alayha, Sayyidina Maryam Isa, and Sayyidina Asiya radiyallahu ta'ala anhunna, right? Because so we have told, this is a hadith that these are the four blessed women. So then Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he's moving to Madian. So what happened was, in his youth, he saw one of the people of Fir'aun, one of his soldiers, committing an oppression against one of the Bani Israel, beating them up very badly. Musa alayhi salam, when he saw this, he tried to intervene. And when he saw that the person, the soldier, one of the courtiers of Fir'aun, wasn't glistening, wasn't backing off. Musa alayhi salam punched him, killed him. It's a punch of Nabuwa. Right, okay? Punches him and kills him. Okay? When he kills him, he makes a dua and says, Ya Rab, he goes, I have sinned against myself, so forgive me. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave him. And now a man came running. Once Musa alayhi salam done this, a man came running saying to Musa alayhi salam, the Pharaoh is plotting to kill you. The people of Pharaoh, they're going to take retribution, so run away. So Musa alayhi salam runs away to Madian, where once he approaches Madian, he approaches a well to take some water, and he's seeing that there's some shepherds that are drawing water for the animals, but there are two women. And these women are standing to the side and they're not drawing any water. So he asks them, what is the matter with you? Why aren't you drawing water? She goes, because the shepherds are there and they're taking the time and we can't go there because we're women, they're men, they're going to take their time. So then he pushed them aside and he took the water for them and he basically filled in their skins and their utensils. When those two women returned, they told their father, who was none other than Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, that this man, he's a very strong man, he's an upright man, and he's helped us, and you should employ him for a wage, right? So Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, he employs Musa alayhi salam, and then he says to Musa alayhi salam that I will marry one of my daughters to you on the condition that you work for me for a wage for 8 years, and it will be better if you complete 10, right? So Musa alayhi salam then agrees to get married, right? And look at this, Musa alayhi salam stays with the in-laws, right? That's exactly what happened. He's staying with his in-laws, right? Today, if you say to, sometimes it happens. Today, if you say to your brother, you have to stay with the in-laws. Oh, I'm not going to stay with my in-laws. I'm not going to give him my position of power. Sometimes, Nabi of Allah, staying with the in-laws, right? Although these in-laws aren't normal in-laws, blessed, but there's a alarm, there's a sign here for us to reflect over. So then, after this time, Musa alayhi salam returned to Misr, Egypt, with his wife, and he mentioned that during this time he went to Mount Tur to search for firewood, and there he obviously had the encounter speaking to Allah through the burning bush, and here he was bestowed Nabuwa, and he was given the miracles of the stick and the shining hand. We've talked about this, and the request of his brother Harun alayhi salam was accepted, that Allah strengthened him by making him also a Nabi. Then verse 38 tells us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised Musa alayhi salam his help when he invited Pharaoh, and then basically he said, do not worry, I will support you and I will assist you. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the believers that you do not quarrel with the ignorant. Remember one thing, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, famous qawl, he says, you present 60 scholars in front of me, 70 scholars in front of me, I will win against each one of them through knowledge. Present one ignorant fool in front of me, I will lose. You can't argue with ignorant people. Sometimes you can have someone can say something, this happens, someone says something to you, you know that they're really speaking out their own pockets, right? It's just made up stuff that they're telling you, and then you explain to this person that what you're telling me is wrong because of X, Y, and Z, and then he will say the same thing. It's like you've literally just said something, given him evidence for something, and it's gone through one ear out of the other. Right? At that point, it's best to walk away, not to bang your head against ignorant people, because that will not benefit you. Right? Okay? So Allah tells us to stay away from ignorant people. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that one of the things that the Makkans said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that if we accept your deen, we will turn away from the deen of our forefathers, and we'll turn away from our idols. And look, the idols give us our wealth and they give so much, and we will be in loss if we take your deen on. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to this saying, Islam will benefit you, it will never harm you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us again about the destruction of settlements and inhabitants, that those people who stayed in those settlements, when they rejected Allah and the Prophet that was sent to them, Allah destroyed them and their settlements. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about His all overwhelming power, that He is the Haqiqi Khaliq, the real creator, and He is the knower of the unseen and the true God. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the waqi'ah of Qarun. Who was Qarun? Qarun was a very, very wealthy man. Sallu ala al-Habib. So Qarun was from Musa alayhi salam's nation, and they say that his wealth was so much that men could not carry the keys to his treasures. The keys to his treasures used to be carried on the backs of 70 camels. Imagine being so rich, you need 70 camels just to carry your keys. I remember when I was younger, and I watched a documentary on this person called Pablo Escobar, who's a drug dealer, right? Okay, and they're saying that he would spend just $5,000 a month just to buy rubber bands to basically put around his money. That's how wealthy he was. And I remember hearing that, thinking $5,000 a month just for rubber bands. But you imagine 70 camels just to carry the keys, just to carry the keys. That's wealth on another level, right? That's wealth on another level. And Allah tells us this because sometimes in dunya, you see someone who's wealthy, big cars, he's going to the best restaurants, it's all over his Snapchat, it's all over his Instagram, okay? When he goes to a place, whether it be a restaurant or whether it be one of these decrepit shisha lounges, he's the one that spends the most money. Everybody's saying, oh, so table so-and-so ordered this, he ordered that, he ordered this, he ordered that, right? Everyone is in awe of this person, and we think that this person is so wealthy, and this person struts around on the earth like they own the earth and they have the best clothes on. And often what happens is we look at them and want to be like them, so we want to aspire to be like them, thinking that this is the life to live. Quran tells you there were people much wealthier than this, but look what happened to them when they denied Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Qarun was from amongst one of the evil people, because even though Allah had blessed him with wealth, he let this wealth get to his head. And he believed that this wealth was something that made him special. And he believed that with this wealth he had exceptions to what? To the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he committed transgressions. And when he was told to believe in Allah and His Messenger and stop doing transgressions, he never listened. And he said, my wealth will suffice me. I'm rich. I don't need to take lessons from you. Who are you to tell me? Right? Do you know who I am? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that overnight, him and his wealth, everything went into the ground. Like a sinkhole opened, everything vanished. The earth swallowed him. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَالْآقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And the hereafter is for the people of taqwa. The hereafter is for the people of taqwa, the pious. Right? Then Surah Al-Ankabut, it begins, this is a Meccan surah, it's the 85th to be revealed. Ankabut refers to the spider, and there's a dhikr of the spider and his house, the web. That's why the surah is called Ankabut. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that believing verbally is not enough. As I was saying during the little method that we had about the Ashab al-Badr, right? That some people from our community, from this ummah, they have this understanding that Islam is a free ride, meaning that you're just going to believe. But the question is, and on days like this, when the Sahaba offered their lives, think about it, 3 horses, in some riwayas 2, in one riwayah it says 1 horse, 8 swords, only 313, 1,000 of them. That's death. You're going to die. There's nothing. Your akal, your brain will tell you, in that fight, you are not returning alive. But yet they went. And one of the Sahaba, he said, and it's in the books of Hadith, about 3 or 4 years after Badr, he said, had it not been for him, meaning Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we would never have gone. Had it not been for him, we would never have gone. So they offered their lives. What have you offered in your life for the deen of Allah? How have you established the commandments of Allah on this earth? How have you helped the deen of Allah spread? This is a question. It's going to be asked to each one of you. If you believed in Allah and His Messenger, Allah will ask you, what did you do for my deen? Something for us to think about. This deen is a deen of action. It's not a free ride. It's not a free ride. And Allah tells you here, believing verbally is not enough. You have to do good deeds. You have to do good deeds. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that you obey your parents except in one thing, if they invite you towards shirk or kufr. At that point, it becomes wajib upon you not to obey them. But you continue normal worldly relationships with them with respect, honor and love. But you do not accept their religious convictions, what they may put on you. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us again about Nuh al-Islam's nation. Nuh alayhi salam, 950 years of da'wah. Only 13 people believed.
Allah.
Think about that. 950 years of calling, only 13 people believed. And then Ibrahim al-Islam is mentioned about his tussle with Nimrod, and then the worshipping of his people of the idols. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us again about the fortune that befell the Qawm of Lut. alayhi salam. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned Madian, which is the qawm of Sayyidina Sheikh alayhi salam. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends this juz of the Quran by saying, we tell you what these people were, we tell you what they did, we tell you what we gave them in terms of their ability to succeed on the earth. Like the Ahlul Madian used to carve beautiful, amazing houses in high heights and mountains, but then we destroyed them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it wasn't us who oppressed them, but verily they oppressed their own souls. Allah doesn't punish you, you punish yourself. That's the haqiqah. Allah never punishes a person. Allah doesn't do dhulm against his servant. It's the servant that does dhulm against himself. How? By breaking the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By not following the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By not doing Ammar bil ma'roof wa nahi anil munkar. By not enjoining good, forbidding evil. By not learning the deen. You know this thing about learning the deen, this is so important. So important. A brother earlier on was telling me in one of the classes where he is, he's shocked at some of the questions that some of the brothers ask the brothers are teaching fiqh, right? And he's teaching basic stuff. He goes, he's shocked at some of the questions people ask. And I have experienced this myself when I've taught some of the questions that people will ask you, basic stuff about wudu. People don't know. People have been reading their namaz for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. People be doing wudu wrong. This is a haqiqat. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that in reality it is not him that wrongs us, but we have wronged our own souls. Then the 21st juz begins. In this is a continuation of Surah Al-Ankabut. We are told that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is an ummi nabi. What does ummi mean? Some fools have translated the word ummi to be illiterate. As if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ma'azallah, summa ma'azallah, was illiterate. Astaghfirullah. Ummi means unlettered. It means that he did not learn to read or write from a being. Referring to who? Meaning Allah was his teacher. When you say someone is educated, that educated person has got an education. So what will you say, Al-Jisab? You will say, where have you educated from? What university did you graduate from? What school did you go to? Right? This is one of the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ, because what testifies to the authenticity of the Quran even further, as if Allah is saying, look, you know him. You lived all your life with him. You know he's the most honest amongst you. So you know he's not a liar. And he doesn't have the ability to read. Yet he's telling you what is factually correct. And if you don't believe, ask the Ahlul Kitab. Ask the Ahlul Kitab. So how does he know this? Because he hasn't read it from a book. It's because we have taught him. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has referred to as calling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ummi. And then Allama Ghulam Sayyidi rahmatullah ta'ala in Sahih Muslim in volume 5 of his tafsir, I believe, and in volume 4 in parts of it, he proves that consequently after Nabuwa, one of the miracles of the Prophet was that he was able to write, yet nobody taught him how to write. He was able to read, yet nobody taught him how to read. Why? Because Allah taught him how to write. Allah taught him how to read. Then again, thus this follows into the fact that the greatest miracle is the Quran. And then that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you look at him, He it is who provides for every being on this earth, whether it's an animal or a human being, and everyone has its rizq. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, look at the animals that you see roaming around. Do you see them carrying their rizq? Look at the bird that leaves its nest in the morning, yet it comes back with its stomach filled. Like, look at the worms, right? Deep within the earth. Right? Look at the ants under the rocks. Even Allah provides rizq for them. So not to worry about your rizq, because verily Allahu wallahu khairur raziqin, He is the best of providers. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends this verse with a beautiful message. You know what the message is? Those who endeavor and struggle for our path, tell them, move forward. We will show you our signs. We will make the path easy for you. Take the first step. Today when you speak to brothers, all you hear is excuses. All you hear is excuses. You ask a brother, Akhi, why haven't you learned your deen? Why don't you come to the masjid? Why don't you come to the gathering? Ask yourself, last year compared to now, have you traversed further in your knowledge? Have you grown in your ibadah? Are you doing the same things in terms of prayer that you were doing a year ago? Are you doing the same things in terms of prayer that you were doing 5 years ago? If the answer is yes, then my brother, you're failing. That's haqiqat. The boxer Muhammad Ali, he said something beautiful. He said, if you view life at the age of 50 the same way you did at the age of 20, you wasted 30 years of your life. There are people that I know personally, 10 years ago, when we were inviting them to the masjid to learn tajweed or learn how to read Quran, they were saying, Insha'Allah. And 10 years later, they are still saying, Insha'Allah. And in 10 years, they've not read a page of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You get what you put in. You eat from the fruits of the seeds that you sow. You don't sow any seeds, you're not going to eat any fruit. This is life. This is life. You want to become an accountant? Shall start saying he's an accountant. You want to become an accountant? You got to work for it. Okay, you got to get the degree. Then you got to go for your SEMA or your ACCA and you got to do your exams. Right? You want to be a doctor? Fine, you got to do your medicine. Right? Then you got to be the junior doctor. Then you've got to decide what field you want to be an expert in. You got to work. Right? Anything in the world, you got to work. In the deen, it's the same. If you want to traverse in your deen, if you want to succeed in your deen, you have to work. And remember, some things, أَعْمَالُونَ فِي الدِّينِ بِالضَّرُورَةِ it is a necessity for you to know them in the deen. You will be questioned about these things. These aren't things, that these are mostly for the Maulvis only. I'm not going to learn about my basic aqidah regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my aqidah regarding the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm not going to learn about the things which are from mafasidat salah, which invalidate day my prayer. I'm not going to learn the fara'id of wudu. I'm not going to learn this. I'm not going to learn. Why are you going to learn them, brother? That's the question. What are you doing with your life? Right? And some people, they say, oh, akhi, you're too harsh. Look, let me tell you something. Right? You know, if a house is burning, okay, Allah protect all of our family. Say you go home now and you see there's a room in your house that's on fire. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're trying to get everyone out, aren't you? Right? How are you going to get them out? Are you going to say, Bismillah, brother, come out. Or are you going to shout and scream at the top of your lungs? And if you need to go in there and grab them and physically throw them out, you're going to throw them out. Is it going to be the first way or the second way?
Second way.
It's going to be the second way, mashallah. This is the only one with the tongue here. Right? It's going to be the second way, isn't it, brothers?
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, right? So if it's going to be the second way, let me ask you something. When you go on the streets today, what do you see? Do you know how many brothers in this month of Ramadan I've seen driving their cars with balloons in their mouth? Inhaling that gas. When they should be fasting, vaping away, smoking, eating on the sly. This is a common sight. Go and walk through any Muslim area. And then we turn the whole month into a carnival of eating and drinking and, basically go and make a whole street and turn it into mess. And this becomes our Ramadan. Now, let me ask you another question. Is this not the house of Islam on fire? So when the house of Islam is on fire, how are you going to get its inhabitants out? You're going to have to wake them up. You have to apply some force. So sometimes we need to see what our reality is. We need to wake up and smell the coffee, as they say. With this, we will end tonight's Khulasa. We will begin with Surah Rum and then complete that tomorrow, inshallah. Allah give us the ability to become active in our deen. So look, brothers, it's the 18th Tarawih. It's the 18th fast tomorrow. You've got 12 or 11 days left. Okay? Often what happens is at this time, it's tired and the nafs is telling you, I'm loving it, but it's gone fast. And you tend to take your foot off. Don't take your foot off the gas. Put it even further. Even further. You don't know, you may not be here next year. This may be your last Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ, he never cursed anyone. We know this, right? Went to die, they stoned him. Even then, Jibreel came, Ya Rasulullah, give me one ishara, I'll bring the whole Satan down. No. But there's one occasion where he cursed. When he was going up the minbar and he said, Ameen. Took the second step, he said, Ameen. And took the third step, he said, Ameen. Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we've seen you do something that we've never seen you do before. He took the first step, he said, Ameen. Second step, Ameen. Third step, Ameen. Because when I was taking the first step, Jibreel came to me. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, may Allah destroy the person who found his parents in old age and had an opportunity to serve them, but didn't serve them and thereby missed this opportunity. And I said, Ameen. And then Jibreel said, Ya Rasulullah, may Allah destroy the person that was given the Quran as a means of guidance, but never find guidance through it. And I said, Ameen. And the third step, may Allah destroy a person that was given the whole month of Ramadan to find Allah's forgiveness, and ended that month as the sinner that he began. And I said, Amen.
Astaghfirullah.
These last days are the days where you stand up in Qiyam. You don't go home and go sleep. You try and sacrifice a bit in your sleep. You stand up in prayer, just you alone with Allah. And you try and you try and you try and break down in tears in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You take away your pride. You take away the fact that, oh, I don't cry, I'm a man, I don't know how to cry. And you pour your heart out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you tell Him to address your inside, your inner condition, and you tell Him and you beg Him to change your inner condition. These are the special nights. Don't waste these nights. Allah give me and you tawfiq wa ma'alina.